Hi there, I'm Dustin, making another video for the Gay Group Relationship channel, and this is going to be another Dustin's Dream. And I haven't made one of these videos in a while, but as I was making the last video about just one and talking about different characteristics, I referenced physical characteristics, and I thought maybe I will do a video about this. There's a couple reasons why I thought I would go ahead and do that. One is that I've been thinking about this group relationship idea for a long time, and there are others that might be kind of new to thinking about it. And it might help them to see my perspective on things, and I thought that might be a useful thing to do. And then another reason is that sometimes I've been talking to people online, or maybe in real life too, and they kind of have very set things about what they find attractive, and they are very kind of rigid within that. And my hope is that perhaps in thinking about the idea of a group relationship, they would be more open to things outside of that very narrow range, and it actually might even open them up to focusing more on those personality characteristics and those things that a person can control more than genetic physical conditions. So I thought that would be an important thing to do. I also wanted to kind of expand that just one doesn't mean that there can only be one person in the group that's this way. Many of the things are, it would be nice if there was at least one, but maybe several people that have these characteristics, or and some of them, and actually many of them, I would actually not want everyone to be one of these certain ways physically. So I think variety is great, and that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about today in this video. I also am going to go into some adult kind of stuff at the end. Usually I try to keep my videos very pretty tame and stuff you could share with family and friends pretty comfortably. So I'll warn you now that at the end of the video I am going to get into some stuff that might be a little more sensitive. So I'll warn you when I get to that point. So kind of looking at things with physical characteristics, different from personality characteristics, is like you can't control these things as much as personality. Genetics play an important part in how we develop, and so you can't really determine how tall or short you are, or what your hair is like, or your skin color, and these things. So I've always tried to be very open to things that people can't control, but there are other physical characteristics that can be controlled, like weight or these kinds of things. So I'll talk through that a little bit. First of all, I will go to the characteristic of height. People that know me will know that I tend to be attracted to tall guys. Not unusual. Tall, dark, and handsome is a saying for a reason. Those kind of guys get a lot of attention. But I'm short, and I've only had one boyfriend in my life, and he was just a little bit taller than me, and so I find kind of both of those ends of the height scale attractive. Stuff in the middle of that's great, but it would be great to have at least one guy in the relationship that's very tall, maybe a couple of them, and then they can kind of commiserate with each other what life is like as a tall guy, and a short guys can commiserate how it is being short, and then we can all be together in the same group and appreciate those differences between us. Another characteristic is of age. That's something that can't be controlled, so I try to be quite open to that. Of course, it's nice to have people that are within a similar range. For me, it's like 5 to 10 years. But once you get outside of that, there's kind of cultural things that can make a relationship a little bit, I think, more difficult or not quite as smooth. But when you have a group, there can be a wider range of things where guys are connecting on that age culture kind of stuff more, and so a group could have quite a wide range of ages and still, I think, get along and understand each other well in that way. I referenced weight a little bit earlier. And in my group, I find health quite important. So I would not be interested in having anyone that's an unhealthy weight in my group. The average person these days seems to be, overweight. And so I would hope that everyone in my group is at least, in a healthy weight range. And, I find lanky body types quite attractive. And, muscular body types are nice. But, talking about muscles, when I was a teen, I thought bodybuilding was really sexy and hot and stuff. But as I got older, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I like that. I think you get into a lot of vanity, and a lot of people that even are unhealthy because of the level of stress that they put their body through. But at the same time, I know guys that just kind of naturally are quite muscular, and it's just their genetics. And so I think it would be great to have like at least one guy that has like, really nice muscles, and then one guy that's got a nice lanky body, and kind of, all the other healthy variations in between. And the next characteristic I was thinking about is hair. I have quite a high forehead, but I think that, a nice bald head and a similar, a guy that's gone bald I think that's great. I also think, nice, full head of hair is great. And I think like ginger guys are really, can be really attractive. So I think it would be great if one guy had red hair. Of course, you can't control that in the people you meet, but that would be great. And then, with like long hair, like I'm not the biggest fan of long hair, but I would be more open to being with a guy that had long hair if I was in a group relationship than if I was only having a single boyfriend. So that's kind of one of those areas where, because I'm open to a group, I'm more open to a guy with long hair. We'll continue on the hair motif with the body hair. I think that body hair is great. I'm a fan of natural things, and so if a guy is naturally hairy, I really appreciate that, and I like at least one guy in the group I'm in to have a nice hairy body. But I also find guys that are quite naturally fairly smooth to be attractive as well. So you can't have one boyfriend that's naturally hairy and naturally smooth. So in a group, you can have partners that have both, and all the, once again, the kind of the levels in between those two. With race, like that's something that isn't a big deal to me. The personality kind of really matters more in that aspect to me. But I think it would be weird to be in a group that was just all a bunch of like white guys. So I would really like kind of a variety of different cultures and races in the group I become a part of. And even maybe some international guys that people from other countries, and kind of add a mix of that. So that's how I feel about that. Bring on all the races. That doesn't matter. I was thinking about sleep patterns. There actually is a genetic aspect to being like an early bird or a night owl. So I think it would be nice to have one guy in the group that's like kind of a solid night owl, and one guy that's a really good early bird for various times that you need those different characteristics. It would be good. I'm going to make a video more about sleep coming up in the future, so I'll talk about that a little bit more in that video. And kind of another thing that's kind of questionably physical is a brain. Like I have some very smart friends, and I enjoy spending time with smart people. But if I was with a single boyfriend that was like super duper smart, I think it kind of gets stressful after a while. So in a group, it'd be nice to have people that balance each other out, because even very smart people, they tend to have the specific fields that they are very well versed in. But other people that might have like a kind of a lower IQ are specialized in other ways, and they can still be very intelligent, and you can balance each other out in that way. And then I just want to talk about just some various other physical characteristics. I tend to like things that that kids would get teased for when they were young. Maybe their ears stick out, or they have like a big teeth, maybe buck teeth when they were younger. Like I find that actually quite attractive. Like maybe a big Adam's apple, like lanky guys sometimes will have that, and they feel self-conscious about it. But I find those things quite attractive, and so I think that's good to have those kind of characteristics that might have been something that was a disadvantage to someone when they were younger, but I find those things to be an advantage, and can be actually attractive and balanced out with other guys in a group. I think it would be really great. And then kind of with my last video, I talked about how one guy that's a backstabber or really conniving can make they can ruin a group, or they can really ruin relationships. Sorry, can't talk very well right now. But I kind of want to look at one other side of things physically. That I've had a few friends that have actually been in accidents and been paralyzed to various extents, and that would be. And I've had friends that were in relationships that married straight people that when their partner their spouse was suddenly paralyzed. Like it, just completely changed their life. And so I think like it would be a nice in a group situation that, that it isn't such a difficult thing, that you could have one of the partners in the group that, maybe has a severe, or, some kind of handicap that might be quite challenging for a single partner to help them manage. But in a group, that all the extra work that might take for that situation can be spread out and made better. So I think that's one possible advantage of group relationships for people that have kind of extra needs for physical things. So now here's the part I warned about at the beginning. I'm going to get into some kind of adult things. And so if you don't want to listen and that makes you feel uncomfortable, stop the video here. And thank you for watching at this point, but we're going to go on. So some other things that I think that I like one person in the group. It's, what's the term? Very well endowed. I think that would be a great thing to have in a group. Sometimes it's nice to have that, but it's not ultimately that important. That's something like that isn't going to make a relationship any better or worse over the long time. But in a group, I think it would be nice to have someone that has that physical characteristic. And on the other side, the bum. Of course, everyone can appreciate a nice butt, but I also find like the lanky guys with a flat butt nice. So you can't have a guy that has a great round butt and a great flat butt. You have to have two different people or more for that. So I think that's a physical characteristic that in a group that you can look at the different versions of that, I guess, and get a little bit of both. And kind of related to that is just kind of libido in general. It would be nice, like, I've met guys that, like, they felt like they needed sex 24/7 and, kind of to an unhealthy level. But I've also met other guys that kind of just seemed, they were kind of open to it at any time. They were that kind of personality that they really enjoyed it all the time, but they didn't need it. And so I think it'd be great to be in a group where you have, at least one or two people that, are very open to doing things quite often, so that those that maybe don't like it as often don't feel obligated to do it so much, and the kind of everyone gets the amount of section and once again, tongues failing on me, but they can get enough of the interaction that they desire without kind of imposing specifically on one other partner. And so that's one of the advantages of a group. So those are some interesting things. I hope that they are things that you might think about and maybe see some of the things that are important to you. Are there other characteristics that I missed that I could talk about more? Are there certain things that are really important to you for physical characteristics? Please comment. That always is nice to get some feedback on that. And, like and subscribe and share. It's getting late and my tongue is getting tired, I guess. So thanks for sitting through this. Appreciate your time. Have a great day.